It's a very good question, and the answer is no. Let's say a limited no, but certainly leaning towards that. The sales process remains the same. It contains a logic and a sequence and a psychological structure that remains the same. What hasn't remained the same, obviously, is the medium of communication. And the one disadvantage with virtual sales is that, yes, it's difficult to get engagement going. I know that. But essentially, the sales process might take a bit longer on virtual because you might have to have a few meetings to cover these different phases. But essentially, the process remains the same. It doesn't change. Well, you can learn a lot from your current customers because you know what market sectors they're in, you know what type of problems that they've got, you know what kind of challenges they've got, and you've got experience and insight. And the lovely thing about a salesperson is they've got a macro view of what the issues are in that sector. So I would say, yes, that's you start with your existing customer base and you work out what are the commonalities between them that make them a great prospect. The problem is that we don't grill them enough. We're too nice in terms of just putting them into our pipeline. And that's where the time waster comes in when you deal with suspects. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but essentially first look at your client base and then apply the criteria that you come up with to the other sectors of the market and other, I call them suspects all the time. I believe it's a salesperson's incredible responsibility to judge and evaluate, does this suspect deserve to be appointed as a prospect in my book? Because I'm going to spend time on prospects. That's a very good question, because if the buyer wants to buy, the question is, why haven't they bought?
Yes,
So
that makes sense.
it means that there's some blockage there. So don't be too casual about this one. If they want to buy and they're giving all the right indications and they want to buy, for God's sake, go ahead. Forget everything else. Go ahead and get the order. But in my book, I mean, information is free. It's accessible. You can find it anywhere. You can go and get answers to your questions that you've got, and you can go ahead and buy online, and you can have it in 3 or 4 days. So no, I would say that take the order, take the money, don't run. Take the money and stick with them. They might add value through extra baskets of products that they buy from you. It's a very good point. I would say that all the steps are equally important. However, if you skip one step and you know the process well, 1 or maybe 2 steps, you can really get away with it. When I say get away, you can kind of recover and you can go back. If you know the structure, you can go back to what you haven't covered. So there's a bit more flexibility there. If you leave out one step, say any of the steps. But with the 3 nuggets, if you cover those 3 properly, your chances of closing, which is really what it's all about, is our conversion ratio. The chances of closing go up to 80-90% when you get that right. But I concur that all the steps are important. I got asked the question on a webinar show by somebody. I was on a panel with a few other speakers, and somebody just asked me that question. If you had to choose 3, which would be the most important, the most critical, the most crucial, etc. And I hadn't really thought about it because I'd come from the perspective that the 7 steps are all important. So it was more of a bit of fun and a bit of game. And it took me a long time to come up with the 3. And I know that when I do those 3 steps well, I know that the chances of the deal being closed go up. So it comes from experience. Well, that's a very good question. Maybe I can answer it by saying, why do you think that we are in business as a sales training company? And the answer is that sales trainers and salespeople don't get it. We provide solutions and they focus primarily on the discovery phase. And I get gobsmacked by the ignorance of trainers around when you ask them, how much time do you spend on the discovery phase? And they look at you and they say, what's that? And then you know that you've got a huge opportunity here to sell what you're good at doing. And the discovery phase is also critical because um, as I said before, it's a basic psychology 101. It's getting them to identify their problem areas and helping them identify what the real issues are. And to answer the question in one sentence, it should be taught as the number one priority in sales. It's usually not, and that's why we are in business. Look, this is called the foundation set of skills that are basic to having a solid foundation. So I would say that any company that doesn't do this from the onboarding stage or from even selection and recruitment stage, that doesn't get involved in uh, discovering answers to this question that's been asked, is dumb. I mean, it should be the core part of every syllabus in sales. And even, we get requests from clients saying our salespeople are very advanced. They are really top pros. And we get them into a room, and before we know it, we've designed a little game that we play. We play the game, which sucks them into the trap. And what do you think the trap is? The trap is presenting. We say things like, show me your brochure. Tell me a little bit more about your company. Tell us how you can solve our problem. And salespeople go straight into it. Instead of having the willpower to say, yes, I will do that, absolutely. But let's first work out what the real issues are. So to me, it's non-negotiable. Discovery phase. Yeah, I'm using an extreme word with ruthless because one of the greatest qualities is empathy, which is probably the opposite of ruthless. But what I mean by ruthless is being more ruthless on ourselves and not letting ourselves become ill-disciplined about putting a suspect into the prospect pipeline because we like them. They're nice. They're nice people. And you know what? They keep promising that they will buy. Do they ever buy? No. Very seldom. We like them. So when I use the word ruthless, I'm saying be ruthless about the way you go about disqualifying suspects because it's going to save you time. You've only got a limited amount of time, guys, and it seems to me these days the world's going at such a rush. You need to focus on the critical few people in your pipeline. It's not the volume in your pipeline, it's the quality in your pipeline that's important. So, yeah, it's a good question. Be ruthless on yourself and also with other. I mean, you might have to say to a client uh, that, and basically, do I have to drop you from our prospecting list? Is a question that my manager asked me today because we haven't had any forward movement from you for about 6 months. So, would you like to stay on our prospect list, or do you mind if we put you to some side and get back to you at a later stage? It's again a very good one, especially as we move into the virtual world more and more. Um, to get the feedback, to invite feedback. Again, I'd like to remind you that if you're asking for their feedback, it's paying them a compliment. It's saying what you're saying to me, it makes sense, but I want to be sure, and I want to check with you that we're on the same wavelength. So we need to stop presenting. You should have a little, I don't know, vibrator on your watch or on your phone that after every 3 to 4 minutes, stop and say to them, so far, so good. And you look at them and you're either going to get that, and that is a yes, or you're going to get a negative. And if it's a negative, you can say, but Harry, you look a little bit worried here. What's exactly crossing your mind? So
Mm.
it's up to you to prompt a feedback loop all the time in the meetings. They should be totally interactive, not one-way presentations. Now, I think you've got to get the relevant yeses. So what you believe, okay, so what you believe that you've heard from them might not be accurate. Communication is always a very difficult thing. So how I interpret your feedback to me means I need to either go back to you and rephrase it and say, as I understand it, what you mean is A, B, C. Is that correct? Would be a polite way of rephrasing. And it is critical to have this feedback loop going because you want confirmation from all the time from the prospect that you are listening to them, you're talking their language, that you understand them, and that you're in a position to give insights to them, that you're much more than a salesperson. So, yes, that feedback loop is critical. Okay, about me, that's some nice, all the nice stuff, etc. I'd say the key thing here is author of 3 books. All these books, Summiting Sales, Turn Cold Calls, etc., are available on Bookboon. We've got quite a lot of awards as being the best sales training company. So, that's all the nice, positive stuff. How do you get hold of me? It's quite simple, really, is type in my name, Clive Price, and Google will tell you where I am on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much all over the place. And yeah, I've said it, as I said there, just type in Clive Price, type in the peer group, or easier, send me an email, clive@mypeergroup.com. And what you can do, if you do send me an email, there is a little giveaway, which I'm very proud of. I just literally wrote this about 3 weeks ago, and that is the summary of each step on virtual sales and in actual sales of a checklist or a cheat list, if you want to call it a cheat list, but it's a cheat sheet. It's really a superb tool to manage your preparation time. Are you ready for the meeting? And it's about 4 pages long. If you send me an email, I'll absolutely love to give that to you.